Welcome to the what date is it? September 30th. September 30th. ZAC meeting. And this is the first meeting of our new fiscal year, for lack of a better term. So I am trying to pull up the agenda because I just lost it for a second there. Okay. So today, well, John Coutinho will be in here shortly, and Ted, who is the Concom rep, is not going to be able to attend tonight, but he will be here in the future. And other than that, we have one new member, Sundar. Thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate the participation. I think, probably the most important thing tonight is that we kind of refresh our memories about what we were doing. The last time we met was August 5th, and things were kind of slow over the summer, but then just to get going again for fall and to understand our deadlines for town meeting, for any amendments that we're proposing, and so on. But the first order of business is electing new chair and vice chair for this year. So John, if you could, just call for nominations or however it's done.
I don't participate.
I know, but you just can, because I shouldn't, because I'm.
All right, I will.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sure.
I would like to nominate Mary as chair once again. I think she's had 1 year and she's just starting to get into the swing of things.
Second.
And I think it would be a back step if we took the position away from her.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
I accept the nomination. Are there other nominations? Okay.
Shall we vote? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And vice chair, we should,
I'd like to nominate John Coutinho as vice chair.
and I do believe he will accept the nomination. Spoke to him a while ago about that.
I would wait for him to.
Let's wait for him.
Officially do that.
Okay, that sounds fine. I would like to discuss future meeting schedule, because this meeting is in direct conflict with the Growth Study Committee, and John is on the Growth Study Committee. And I don't know if you have participation in that at all as well, or you might be called into it from time to time. And possibly other members here would like to attend that from time to time to give input. So I did consult with the chair of the Growth Study Committee about what their schedule is. They actually, during October, they have Tuesday meetings, and then during November, they have Monday meetings. And December, they have Monday meetings. So we could take Mondays during October and then try to switch to a different day of the week. I just wanted to see what people's schedules are and what we could work with. Any thoughts?
Mondays work for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do Thursdays work for people?
I could make it work.
You could make it work?
Sure.
I have a very flexible schedule.
Okay. You can make it work? Yes? Elise?
Thursdays, I usually have EHOP meetings in the evening.
Okay, EHOP meeting.
Is
Okay.
that every week?
We're sort of doing every other week right now.
Maybe we could alternate it with that. So let's schedule October meetings on Mondays, because it does not seem to be in conflict for that. That would be let's see. It's September 30th, right? Okay. So the next week is the planning board.
7th.
October 7th is the planning board. So
14th and the 28th.
is that right, John? I just want to make sure that,
So the next Mondays are the 7th, the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th. The 28th and the 7th are planning board meetings.
okay, so we would do the 14th.
It's Columbus Day, it doesn't matter.
We can't do Columbus Day?
No, it's all.
Oh, it's a holiday.
Public holiday.
I know, but,
We could do the 21st.
okay.
I'm sorry, you said planning board was the 7th and the 28th?
Yes.
So we could do the
And the
21st.
We can do the 21st. It is so hectic scheduling this. All of the meetings. Okay. Could anyone do the 17th, October 17th? No, that would be stupid. 21st and the 17th.
So we're not doing October 21st?
Or the 10th? October 10th, so that we don't have to go 3 weeks without a meeting?
I do the 10th.
October 10th at 7?
I'm not here that night, but that's,
Okay. Obviously, we need to check with Rhea and Ted too. So let's put that tentative for October 10th.
October 10th.
And, yeah, and email them, and John C. as well. Okay, so 7 tentative ZAC meeting on October 10th. My son's name is Zach also, so this has always been confusing for me. It's not spelled Z-A-C, but still.
We could spell this Z-A-C-H. You know, you could add the Hopkinton in the end.
That's right. At Hopkinton, that's good, that's good. All right, okay, and then the 21st, right? Zach.
So 10th and the 21st?
The 10th and the 21st.
Okay.
So in general, it'll be every other week. Except, actually, if we switch to Thursdays, you know, alternating with the EHOP meetings, if we switch to Thursdays, then we won't run into a bunch of Monday holidays anymore, so that's a plus. Considering the planning board always manages to take over the spot if we have to skip one for Monday. All right. We also will need to have a public forum as soon as we can, like probably, you know, in the next month. In fact, we could schedule that for, is it too soon to schedule it for October 21st, John? I don't know how long you need to advertise those.
I'd have to look if it's any different than a regular meeting, but if it's a regular meeting, then it shouldn't be.
No, I think we usually advertise it for a little bit longer.
I'll have to check
Just,
it
yeah,
out.
but it seems to me that 3 weeks would be enough. Okay. So, does that sound good to everybody? That we have our public forum on October 21st? Okay. Good. Okay, and all meetings start at 7 PM. And absolutely by 9, but usually earlier. Hi, John. So, John, we were just talking about making sure that these don't conflict with the Growth Study Committee in the future.
Oh, good.
And during October, all the Growth Study Committee meetings are Tuesdays.
Yeah, so I was wrong about today.
So, that's okay.
Yeah,
And then,
it wasn't today.
And then
But
we...
that one was today, so that was paid.
We scheduled for October 21st as our public forum, but also we tried, since October 14th is Columbus Day, we also scheduled for Thursday night, October 10th. Do you need him?
You need,
Oh, he's
come on
just
in,
being
come on
curious
in, sit
public.
down. You can learn something. Learn something about Hopkinton.
So we also scheduled for Thursday, October 10th, so we didn't have to go 3 weeks before another meeting. Does
Okay.
that work for you, this Thursday?
I can make it work, it's fine.
Okay,
It's-
okay, sounds good.
I'm an empty nester now, it's a little bit easier.
And then Rhea and Ted, if you can confirm with them for both of those dates, that would be great. And then, when the Growth Study Committee switches back to Monday meetings at the beginning of November, we are going to try to do Thursdays at 7, and we'll alternate it with the EHOP meetings because
Are you
Elise...
growth also? Who else is on growth? Is growth study? Just me?
just you.
Oh, sorry.
But then we won't have that conflict, so. Okay. All right. We can go back to vice chair. I'd like to hear nominations for vice chair.
I'd like to nominate John Catino for vice chair.
Second?
Sure.
Can I hear other nominations? No other nominations? Okay.
This is what happens to me.
All in favor? Aye.
Does he accept?
Do you accept? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, do you accept?
Well, who's chair?
Yeah, we already
Okay,
voted.
okay.
I am. Sorry. Otherwise, I wouldn't lead the agenda otherwise, so. Okay. Okay, so we have the next few meetings scheduled, and we have a public forum scheduled.
So you said the 10th and the 21st?
Yep, 10th and the 21st.
And we did not set any November meetings yet?
No, we did not,
Okay.
but we will plan to set them on Thursdays at 7.
Just for scheduling purposes.
Yep.
With EHOP, we're trying to do the first Thursday of the month is a set meeting. And then our next meeting, we're trying to have someone from all the different committees in town come, so we kind of have to work around them.
Oh, yeah.
So it might not always be on a Thursday, it might be on a Wednesday. But we're doing the first Thursday for sure.
Okay, well then we will do the second Thursday, definitely. And then we'll do the second and fourth, and we'll just, you know, if you have to miss because you have both meetings going on at once, we'll just have to manage that, okay?
Okay.
Do you want us to schedule those now?
Yeah, why don't we?
The second and
Since
fourth.
I was,
Isn't the 4th Thanksgiving?
It is.
Okay, I was just thinking about that. I seem to remember there was a president that said, let's make it the 4th Sunday in.
excuse me, I'm fighting a cold. Okay, so the first Thursday is 7th. Okay, the second Thursday is the 14th, so that will be a meeting.
Wait, hold on. Wait a second.
You do see the first Thursday, November
The
1st?
first Thursday is Elise's meeting, so we can't do that.
Okay.
So the
No.
second Thursday, the 14th.
It's on Wednesday in November.
Seriously?
I'm sorry. Nothing's on a set schedule right now.
So we could do first and third.
Yes, we can do first and third. All right.
Let's do.
Okay, now it's going to be November 7th.
And I don't have my phone with me today, so I can imagine what my kitchen sounds like right now.
November 7th is fine.
Okay. The 7th and not the 14th. And
You
John
can't undo
will give
something.
us an email with all these dates listed out. So we can check our calendars and make sure they're accurate. Okay. 21st. And then the 28th is Thanksgiving. Okay. Good?
The 21st.
Okay, that's good. So we'll go from October 21st, and then that's 2 weeks and a few to
John, when's
November
homecoming?
7th.
Is that the 21st weekend or the weekend after?
I'm sorry, what?
So 7th and
VT
21st in
homecoming.
November, right?
The 7th and the 21st, yes.
Okay.
Okay.
It's not gonna be that close to Thanksgiving.
Okay.
The 21st? It's just
21st of November or 21st? So
21st of November is a
Oh,
week.
so it's, so the 21st and the 21st, we're going to do two 21st.
Correct.
20, oh,
Yeah, October 21st as well.
that's
yeah.
correct.
Okay.
So we have October 10th,
Yep,
October 21st.
yep, 21st.
What will we do on the 10th?
Oh, I don't think the 10th is enough time before
Oh, I don't
the
think so.
public forum. Do you?
Do you have people?
I have a suggestion for the 10th. Why don't you redistribute all of Ted's stuff
Yes,
on the solar farm?
yep.
And why don't we take that up on the 10th?
I think that's an excellent idea. I was looking at that on the work plan in preparation for tonight, and I was realizing that, you know, we had looked at it on August 5th, but we didn't have, I don't think we had a quorum, or we had almost, you know, we had a short number nonetheless, and And even though we looked at it, we could definitely discuss it more.
Okay, good.
So that's an excellent idea. Okay. All right, so, John and Sundar, I want to make sure that you get a zoning bylaw book
Sure.
from John.
Okay.
And a copy of the master plan.
Sure.
I think the zoning bylaw book can be electronic as well as on paper, but the master plan, I don't know if you have that electronically or if it's just on a paper book.
I have to look.
Okay. And
I
then,
think it's on our website, so it's going to be electronic.
Sure.
yeah, okay,
Okay.
so yeah, it's just useful to have a PDF of both of those
Sure.
available for light reading. Are there any other documents that are particularly helpful, especially for new members?
The map.
Oh, yeah, zoning map.
Oh, yeah, that's always a good one, yeah.
So if you could get those two, oh, and actually, John, next time if you could bring a full-size copy of the zoning map for Sundar, as well as sending him the electronic one, but sometimes he can't even blow that up enough
Isn't
to
that the
really
Stephen Wright
see.
joke? I've got a full-size copy of the United States, full-size map of the United States. Full scale.
Right. 1-to-1 scale, that's right.
I'll drive that.
Okay, so those three things, anything else that you can think of? Good,
A good sense of humor.
yeah,
I think I have that for sure.
that's
That's
good.
fun, it's always fun.
Definitely need that. All right. Okay, organization, all right. The one pager that you guys received that has the information on the organization of ZAC, I just wanted to quickly review it, just so everybody is clear on it. I'm going to also send a PDF that will actually have the little squares filled in. But the way ZAC was reorganized by the planning board in July 2018 was to make it a year-round committee. Prior to that, it was just 1 year and actually more like 6 months. And this is just to give it a sense of better continuity, things that we can tackle, you know, are longer term, more complex issues. But the purpose is to review and develop proposals to amend the zoning bylaws and/or the zoning map. And then we make recommendations to the planning board in preparation for annual town meetings. So there's a deadline that we have for the point at which we need to forward everything to planning board. Planning board then holds public forums of their own to review the wording and any zoning changes that we're proposing. And then they vote on whether or not it goes to town meeting. And then town meeting votes on whether or not it's implemented. So what are the deadlines involved, John, just to review? The other John, sorry.
I do not have the
Okay.
information.
Yeah, it's sometime in
Approximately
February.
January, February,
Yeah, February is like the
drop dead.
drop dead date, yeah.
I can find out.
Well, well, you know better, the planning board liked that we released them all
Piecemeal,
along.
yeah, that's actually the idea, is that any that we voted on, you know, since the deadline was passed last year, any that we vote on, we can send on to planning board right away, and they can potentially put that on their agenda sooner. They may not, but we'll
Did we
see.
have any that were close? Do you remember, Carol? You're good at this stuff, you still have a pretty good memory. Were there any that were
I think your
close?
memory's shot if you're thinking that. What, any that were close
Yeah,
voting wise?
Any of the ones we were still talking about in April?
I
that we
think-
Didn't get in?
I think we
Something
might
that the
have,
planning board kicked back to us for
we
something?
might have some. So I'm
We
referring
had a couple that the
to our
planning
work
board
program.
opted not to follow through on.
Yeah. So if you look at the work program, which is the landscape document. Okay, I know on signage, we had a consensus that no bylaw change was needed. Theaters, halls, and clubs by right, not, consensus was not to propose the bylaw change. And
Are we going to look at streamlining again?
Okay. Well, starting at the top, because we need to review these anyhow. Parking requirements in various districts. In June, we decided to hold off on any zoning changes until the new public parking in the downtown is built and the downtown corridor project is completed. Anybody feel like this should come back up again this year, or we should just leave it in the gray zone?
Even though parking was passed at town meeting, there's no funding to actually build any parking downtown.
Right, so we bought some land, and that still has a home on it, that still has to go through a demo delay. Then we still have to put away money to get it built, and then permit it. That's why I mentioned number 3, because I'm just doing a simple thing through ZBA, and it's 4 months is what we put away to do that. And mine's it's one condition. You know, this is gonna probably be tons for the town, and this is a town-on-town thing, so I don't.
So can you give us an update on what's happening with Main Street?
Downtown corridor, the whole thing?
Because that impacts my decision. Because that's going to impact the parking on Main Street if you do that, and the whole timing of that, and what that's going to do to our entire downtown situation.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that's at right now.
Pardon me?
I don't know where that's at right now, if you could maybe enlighten us.
As to what part of the downtown, it's happening, the shovels go in the ground, as far as I know, the day after the marathon,
2020.
2020.
Okay.
And the plan is what we were discussing at last Tuesday's meeting. I definitely not, it's beyond my pay grade to discuss the entire length of the whole thing. That was when we bring in the engineers and everything else.
But it's going to happen next April.
And I've got a presentation that was forwarded to the planning board that I can forward to all of you. It's probably just what you got at the select board. So, you know, that's just for information.
Then, given that that's going to start in 2020, and we're going to lose parking spaces on Main Street when that happens, and that the parking that we voted on that's not necessarily happening, I think maybe we do want to look at parking. Maybe not as a top priority, but I think...
Well, parking we should always be looking at anyway. It's for every community, that it's one of the main stays of keeping a vibrant downtown. You know, but you know, one of the fallacies that we have to look at when it comes to parking here in Hopkinton is we have a space that may be 40 feet long, and then depending on who may be painting it, there could be 3 spaces there, 2 spaces there, or 5 spaces.
I thought those were all state regulated.
Well, that's what's happening now, is after the downtown corridor project goes in, there will be state-regulated spaces, which, what are they, 18 feet long? John, do you know that one? I think they're about
18 feet.
Like if you go right across from Hopio, there's a space that they tried to squeeze in around a fire hydrant. And I parked my dune buggy there, and my dune buggy is about 9.5 feet long, and it overhangs. I just parked across the street in front of Pad Thai with my daughter's pickup truck, and I'm 1.5 spaces.
Yeah.
You know, and so when people say, we're losing spaces, no, you're not changing the physical size of the street. You know, they're gonna make the spaces what is
What they
normally
should.
there. So it might look like there's 4 spaces there, but if only 2 cars fit in those 4 spaces, there's 2 spaces. So that's what a lot of our downtown is that. And I just laugh about the one across from Hopio. I put the dune buggy there, and it's pretty funny.
Excuse me.
I'm not sure what we could do in terms of zoning to address the shortage of downtown. I mean, we need more parking spaces
Yes.
off Main Street, not rezoning the downtown area. So I mean, kind of putting off the zoning discussion until after this, at one level, still makes some sense, because I don't see any recommendations we're gonna make from a zoning standpoint
It's going to alleviate the situation.
that's going to
Okay.
create
That-
more parking spaces.
That makes sense.
We need
And
more
we don't,
parking.
and we don't want to discourage business by increasing the requirements or,
Oh, yeah, no.
so.
Right, then we'll have riots. We'll fill those seats up pretty quickly. What's Zach doing?
Okay, so Solar Farm Overlay District, this was material that Ted collected for our August 5th meeting, and I can re-forward that out, or John can, and we can put this on the agenda for our next meeting on the 7th. He collected information on overlays that Wellesley and Weston have created, and we will need legal advice eventually, but we can have our initial discussion. Streamlining the permitting process. This is something we did in the spring. Planning board has implemented some changes to the way they run meetings, which I believe are showing some improvements to the efficiency of getting through individual applications. And I mean, certainly we meet all of the state requirements and that sort of thing, but, and I know that John and other members of the professional staff are, you know, have always, but are continuing to encourage applicants to meet with them directly before they get to planning board at all, you know, so that they can really address a lot of the issues up front that are the typical things that planning board, you know, needs to see and want, so that they can come before planning board fewer times, you know, in a row. So those things are being done, definitely, but this is something that, you know, we've left on here, not an active investigation, but any thoughts on how high a priority this is for us?
Maybe someone from the chamber, that would be Ron, can speak to whether or not this is an issue. I personally don't know that it's an issue, so I would be okay leaving it sit on the back burner, but Ron can probably speak more
The chamber
fluently.
does hear often that it's very difficult to navigate the permitting process in town. Not necessarily the policies themselves, but just the logistics of getting through meeting to meeting to meeting in multiple different boards, and the elapsed time of getting through them is an arduous process. It's not any one board necessarily, but when
it's
this
just the
board
entire
has to
process.
continue it 2 or 3 or 4 times to get to the beginning of the next board, it's,
And it's hard, because you go through the planning board and they send something to the Concom, and then you gotta wait for Concom to make their decision before it can come back and you can look at it again.
no, but that's what, you know, it's, and I don't have a solution that we're trying to recommend, but it is an impediment to people wanting to do business in Hopkinton.
Because some municipalities do joint meetings to get things through. They schedule stuff up so that the several, you know, if there are large projects happening, and we really don't have anything large going. But even as I said, just the you know, one thing that I have, now I just bought a house up the street, and it's a 15,000 square foot lot, so, you know, I'm conforming. But remember, you were on the board, I think, that when we tried to change the size, the conforming size lot for the downtown. It was about 5 years ago, I think. And because right now, somewhere about 70 to 80% of the lots downtown are non-conforming. So if you want to do anything to your house, you've got to go through ZBA and get a special permit, or a variance, depending on what you want to do. And what we were trying to do was to make 70, 80, or 80% of them conforming. So reduce it from 15,000 square foot required lot down to, I think we did 7 or 8. Elaine did a great job at bringing the number. But when we presented it, actually, I think, presented it at town meeting, I think I did a bad job of trying to explain why we were doing this. A lot of people thought we were doing it so that it would make their houses more susceptible to being bought up by retail or commercial establishments, and spread the business community down through A, B, and C streets and everything. But in reality, all we were trying to do was keep people from having to spend the $250 for a special permit, the $400 to put the ad in the paper, and et cetera, et cetera. So it may only come to a couple $1,000s, but that's, if you're only going to, put a back deck on or do something else, that's probably half the cost of the job. And I think that might be something like this, when we're talking about the permitting process. I'm getting into a whole another thing, but it just reminded me of that one. Is that everybody downtown could really use a hand, or maybe I could just do a better job selling it, or maybe somebody else sell it.
And that ties in with the, with some of the other things that, we've reviewed in recent years regarding the accessory family dwelling units or conversions of residential property into duplexes and so on, that everything has to go through the ZBA. And if there are any of them that we can streamline potentially about not needing to go through ZBA, if it meets these requirements, for instance, that could speed up a lot of things. So downtown area.
Just to confirm, 43D is not a solution that we are looking for here, right? Because that's not going to solve a general problem.
Correct.
More process issue.
Okay. On to the next one. Encouraging senior citizens to stay in their homes.
That was me, and that's not,
Is that to keep people from
that's not
driving?
a zoning thing.
Yeah.
I think it's something that we should do in town. I think we should make it easier for seniors to stay in town, but I don't think that's a zoning issue. I think that's a tax credit or some other method.
Okay.
And we are doing that stuff. We did the water and sewer relief, and we got the additional tax relief for the homeowners tax and stuff. We've done a lot this year.
Carol, did this mean as against leaving town? Is that what you mean by, are they leaving town? And when you say encourage people to stay in town?
I think a lot of residents put their kids through school,
Okay,
and after their kids are through school, they immediately leave town because the taxes are too high
That's
for
true.
them to stay. And from my perspective, what I see that doing is it immediately brings in 2.3 new children to go to school, which in effect costs the town the
More.
same amount of money
Okay.
again, as opposed to me staying in my house, and there's no cost associated from a town standpoint with me being in town right now. My kids are done, they're gone, I'm paying the taxes, but I'm not putting any more kids through school, and if I can't afford to stay here, then you're gonna get another 2.3 children in my house. And I know Elaine had an issue when she was talking about her experience in Harvard. I'm not talking about necessarily my staying here until my house is a total rundown shack and somebody has to rip it down and rebuild it. But there should be a period that I stay in town to pay taxes, to pay for my children's education. And that, I don't know how you make that work, but I think it would be a good thing if, as a town, we could make it work. But as I said, I don't believe that's a zoning issue, And I don't think it's anything we're gonna resolve in zoning, so I don't think necessarily it should be on this list. So I got off my soapbox now.
Okay, I will put it in gray, so it stays on our list, but it goes to the bottom.
Okay.
Okay, this next one, definitions of zoning districts and creating table for zoning, that's, you know, my pet project. And it's just an organization of information that I'll talk over with John at some point in the coming months.
How about adding the word residential to agricultural?
That's a bad joke. Dark sky lighting standards. This is one we didn't even touch last year, but the year before, and probably a lot previous to that.
Oh, every year. That's an every year one.
Yeah. This is one thing that we were just trying to educate ourselves about. Ted had mentioned a field trip a few years back that had been done with, you know, somebody knowledgeable in the field of lighting. And, you know, with light meters and kind of just letting us all know what it means to, you know, what spillover, how much spillover there is and things like that. So, so that is something that we'll continue to pursue. It's on our action item list. And we'll just bring it up, you know, when Ted is in the room. And there are certainly a lot of lighting standards that the DBA, is that right? Design Review, DRB, there. DRB goes through with larger developments quite a lot. So I think that a lot of that is covered. There's not a screaming need for new zoning regulations, but it's probably something that we can consider for the future. And I expect anybody with any other comments would just jump in, right? Consolidate accessory family dwelling unit, conversions of residential property, and the duplex bylaws. The purpose of this would be really just clarification, because these three or four different bylaws, which have developed through time, are very similar. And John C., you could probably speak to that because, you know, you are in this industry, but I think it can be confusing for people, like which one applies to me and what do I do with this? And it would be, again, a nice thing to have. I don't think it would.
Well, basically, one's an apartment, the way I read it is one's an apartment, one's an in-law, and one's a separately owned building. So you could have.
That's true, duplexes. Well, the thing is that, yeah, but there's overlap. There's a lot of overlap in the way that it's worded. So, yeah, so just to try to streamline that and make it clear, you know, what applies to what, and also make it more clear for what the town intends, because I think that's been lost in the way that they've overlapped over the years with various changes. So.
Yeah, I think that happens because, you know, a lot of times we try to, you know, make sure that we have enough affordable housing, you know, because we're running into that right now with the, with the stuff from Legacy and the stuff from up in Chamberlain and Wayland, is making sure that we have enough affordable units, and to try and get an affordable unit here in Hopkinton's tough. You know, that comes back to Carol talking about the, you know, the taxes, you know, because the taxes really aren't going up high, but it's the valuations of the houses that are going up.
That's true, but if you didn't need the tax revenue, then you could lower the rate to generate the income that you needed. There's nothing to say that if the value of my house doubles, that you need to double my taxes. You're doubling my taxes because you need the revenue to operate the town the way that you want to operate the town.
No, the taxes.
You could lower my rate, and my valuation could go up.
Taxes have only been going up 2.5% or less than 2.5%, which is why we had to do the underwrite. But what they you know, they sometimes change the algorithm sometimes, and the houses are worth more than they.
But from a
we do 100%
homeowner's
evaluation.
perspective, it doesn't matter if my taxes go from $2,000 to $3,000 or $6,000 to $8,000. It doesn't matter how you got to the 8,000 from the 6,000.
Sure it
It just
does.
matters that it.
No, because your
it
house is,
doesn't.
no, because Hopkinton's such a great place to live, that when one goes to sell their house, it's worth a lot more money rather than,
But if I don't want to sell my house and I want to stay in town, it makes no difference to me how you went from $6,000 in real estate taxes to $8,000 in real estate taxes. Me, as the homeowner, now has to pay the $8,000 worth of taxes, not the $6,000. Doesn't matter whether or not you increase my rate or my value. The fact is, my bill went from $6,000 to $8,000. That's the financial hardship, not
no.
the fact that 20 years or 2 years or whatever down the road, I'll be able to sell my house for more than I bought it for. It's right now, I need to pay the increase in real estate taxes. Is that, you understand?
No, I get what you're saying, no, I get what you're saying, it's fine.
And that goes back to the senior incentives, so, you know,
Yeah, because I'm getting old.
it's clear, yeah. That's right. Number 8 is a carryover from ZBA request 2 years ago about revising the accessory family dwelling unit bylaw to make a few more things by right rather than having to all go through ZBA for a permit. There was wording that did not pass that year in town meeting, and we can review that wording and see whether or not there's any appropriate wording that we feel would pass, you know, to reintroduce it if we want to do that.
That might be worth bringing back for the next meeting, too.
Yeah, because it could be a quick one, so, okay.
Quick
And
ones,
it's available.
quick ones scare me.
So I went back to the 2018 town meeting minutes and I saw they were trying to replace the whole thing with the new text. It was not one section, it was a whole thing being replaced, and from the arguments that I saw against it, there was only arguments about changing wording. I still don't know why it didn't go through, so maybe getting more information about why it was stopped, actual reason why it was stopped.
Do you have that information that it would be easily
I'll
distributable?
I'll get it back from the 2018 town minutes, whatever I gathered, I'll get it, but I don't think it was enough. I think we need more information about it. I can bring forward the.
That's something we should do, good idea. Watch some of them town meeting, let's go back, maybe that could help us with some of these.
Yeah, no, that's not a bad idea, but I'm like, it just sounds awful.
I know, but we could speed it up, and stuff,
That's right, put it on 2X. I actually have some notes from that town meeting that might supplement, what's in the official minutes, so.
Okay.
But they're not here right now.
No, for the next meeting. Yeah, I don't have it, whatever I gathered also, so.
Okay, number 9, we crossed off our list. 10, protect large tracts of open space. This was, let's see. This is the chapter 61. And I know there's A, B, and C of that, but I don't know what the different ones are. Don't tell me right now. So this is more about, really looking farther to the future, making sure that we have open lines of communication with certain landowners and involving the Open Space Preservation Committee and the CPC Fund, and making sure that we are all in communication about those large parcels and the desire to protect open space, if things, come up for sale. So that the town doesn't get caught off guard.
The seminar or presentation that you and I and a couple of others went to, there was the town planner from Framingham was talking about approaching homeowners about putting voluntary conservation restrictions on their properties.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how that works? Like, are there tax incentives? Do you know anything about that?
So owners can put conservation restrictions, and I guess there's an array of what the restrictions can include on their property. Usually they're purchased. So the town will purchase a conservation restriction because that landowner can no longer use that portion of their land for development. So they're
Okay.
losing value of the land, or they can donate a conservation restriction. You see that a lot with the open space, landscape preservation projects going to the planning board, is the open space will be deeded over or have a conservation restriction put on it.
Right. The planner from Framingham, whose name I don't remember, she was talking about approaching homeowners in existing, like, large parcel
Yep.
properties and having them put a conservation restriction on a portion of their property. And I don't know what the motivation is for the homeowner to do that.
Yeah,
Would
usually.
would that mean they would declare part of their property conservation, like declare, like self-declare intent? Sort of-
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And they
So
put a
it's an
conservation
actual-
restriction
It's an
on it.
actual restriction, like deeded restriction, that no development can go, and
Right.
it can be written a certain way so that no development.
But to your point, that would be the equivalent of me giving away the property to the
Right.
town in some sense,
But
right?
then, if they sold the property, that parcel
Portion can't be
would stay
developed.
undeveloped. Okay,
Correct.
so it deters people from when the land is being sold, not necessarily when they're still living there.
Right, I would assume there's some kind of tax reduction in the value of the land, because it's undevelopable, it would be a conservation, it would be open space essentially.
I would be happy in the next couple of months to go and make an appointment with the Framingham town planner that was at that meeting,
Okay.
to talk to her about how the town gets the people to do that. Because there's a number of large properties in Hopkinton that could be divided. And I don't know how they broach that subject, but I think it's something worth pursuing
Okay, sounds good.
if y'all agree with that.
I think it's a good idea.
I just see that if somebody's owned a property for 50, 100 years, it's come down the family, and now and for the last 50, 100 years, they've been paying, but we'll just talk about the high tax on it, that, you know, they've been looking forward to retirement and taking care of their kids by selling it, that they put a deed restriction on it that brings the value down to just a single home.
I understand what you're saying, and that's,
There'll be a very, anybody that does it's very generous to the town.
listening to the planner from Framingham, it's been successful for them, and I don't, because I understand your argument, and I don't understand what the motivation is.
Right.
But
Right.
let's find out why
They've got
anybody
a-
did.
They've got a three-
If I can weigh in, I've seen this in other towns. Usually, the town will use CPA funding for open space to purchase the restriction from the landowner. That's how you offset that.
Okay.
So that's what I meant by the town purchases the CR, is they're basically saying, going to a landowner and saying, we'd like to buy this portion of land, we think it's significant for open space, we'll give you this amount, or you tell us how much, and then they work a negotiation.
But are they selling the land,
No,
or are they
they're
just
selling
selling
the
the
restriction.
restriction? So they still own the land to
They
use
still
as
own
they
the
want,
land.
well,
Well,
to use within the
yeah.
restrictions.
Yes, and sometimes the town can negotiate a lower price by saying, in the future, when you die or sell this land, sell us that conservation restriction at that point, so you can use this land. Or there's some language in the restriction where it's on when they own the land, but they can still do some stuff that's not necessarily development, but they can do stuff to enjoy their land. But then once the land is passed to whoever else, or sold or whatever, the full force of the restriction goes into effect, and then it's
Okay,
basically just open space. So you'll see towns use open space funding through like CPA, or if there's funding in the Open Space Preservation Committee account or something like that, that's usually how they do
Now,
that.
that's a great use of those funds. That's exactly what they should
But I
be
still
used
think
for.
the additional research would be a good idea, just to, you know,
Yeah.
like, yeah.
Then I could see somebody doing it,
Yeah.
because they've been waiting for this payout for years and years and years.
well, I will put it on my calendar
Great.
to go and meet with her in the next couple of,
Well, I'm gonna put you on the action item list.
Was it Erica Jerem?
Don't
I'm gonna
know.
have to, do you know?
I'll check my notes.
Because
I
I
have
know
notes.
there's been some movement, if it was other planners, they may have left Framingham,
Oh,
so you may not be able to find it.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
well, I'll report back when I'm
If you find out,
unsuccessful.
I actually have a conference in like 3 weeks,
Oh,
Okay,
nice.
planners, so you can tell me and I can try to.
Oh,
excellent.
okay.
I'll look back through my notes. I'm sure Mary has much better notes, but between the two of us, hopefully we'll get your name.
Hours of business operation, we reviewed in June. Surprisingly found very few things in any bylaws, general bylaws or zoning bylaws. And I don't know if there's any desire to revisit this and put it into zoning bylaws.
It seems to me that the marketplace is kind of determining hours of operations reasonably well.
Yeah, I'm with you there. Anyone else?
I know, yeah, try and go to a restaurant or something after 9 o'clock in Hopkinton.
I know, actually, I wish we could, but again, if the restaurants don't wish to be open that much later, then so be it. Stone walls, this is not a zoning, but it's something that the planning board has requested, so it's really just to write some guidelines that they might put into their scenic road site plan review and things like that. So, again, you know, if anybody comes up with some extra time on the weekend and you want to write some some thoughts down, we'll review it here before we pass it on to planning board saying, here's some suggestions.
I actually think the planning board did a relatively good job with that, with one of their most recent stone walls when I was paying attention, where they asked for, you know, photographs before and
Yeah, I remember the
photographs
meeting.
after. and-
Yeah.
Oh, you don't have to use like stone
And we
tools or
just haven't
something to move the
ever,
rocks.
so I could review that meeting and just like write down what was said, see if we can put it into some sort of
Ancient tools.
document.
Is this specific to homes on scenic roads?
It's, yeah, the scenic roads, with stone walls, there's something that says, you know, people have to come before planning board if they want to move, remove, modify in any way. The stone wall has to be in the right of way, you know, of the scenic road. And planning board generally has, I don't know, 4 or 5 of these a year. Homeowners that come before them that need to either do some construction and so temporarily move the stone wall and then put it back. And so things like that.
What's
and-
considered historic?
Yeah, it's historic.
No, what's the definition of historic, a historic stone wall?
Well,
Older than me.
I don't know if they
It's-
specify historic.
yeah,
stone.
this was just my wording.
I don't think it needs to be
In the
historic, it
scenic
just
bylaw,
needs.
It's not historic, it's
historic
just-
stone walls, it's
just
just
there.
stone walls.
So even if I had built one 6 months ago?
Well, you would build one in the right of way, which probably wouldn't be allowed.
Oh, okay, this is strictly in the right
In
of
the
way.
right of way of scenic roads only.
Only of scenic roads.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
so this is like a stone wall that's in somebody's, you know, backyard or something?
No.
like that. Oh, okay. Because I just wondered, because, you know, when you're driving on the highways and stuff, you know, 495, you see them there, they're going up and down a hill
Yeah.
and stuff. It's like, wow, I wonder what that was like, you know,
I know,
100
that's
years
so
ago.
cool, I know.
when there were
When you
cows
find it in the
out
middle
there.
of a forest, and it's like, well, this clearly was not a forest, always it was fields, and that's cool. But yeah, we don't have any rights to
Okay, so-
dictate
so
anything
it's
other than
right of way.
scenic road right of way. Scenic road, so.
I don't know if it was like a 60-year-old, 80-year-old, you know, sort of like what we were doing.
No, because we can't really carbon date the stones, so.
Oh, the time it is, that the
Yeah.
person built, yeah.
Okay, skipping down to 15. By the way, I'm gonna probably say we're gonna end at the end of this page on 17, and then we'll go through the rest of them on the 7th to review where we're at, because my voice is failing, and
Okay.
I'm, you know,
The
I need-
10th, not the 7th.
the 10th, sorry. I know, somebody would use that and come here on the 7th. Okay.
And blame you.
You can't blame me. Increase retail store square foot maximum. This was a carryover from some early ones we had last year, beginning of last year from Chamber. Currently in the industrial A and industrial B districts, There's a maximum of 2,000 square feet for retail stores. And we did discuss that, but tabled it because we felt like we needed more information about, well, just, how much does a typical, what kind of store, how much typically does it need, and that sort of thing. So the idea here was to increase the maximum square footage that was possible either by right or by special permit. I can't remember right offhand, and I do think we should revisit this. Any other thoughts on that?
Is there any demand for it?
Well, I think that the chamber was looking to try and see if this helped,
Yeah.
with the open spaces on, a lot of it comes down to South Street and seeing if this sparks any interest.
And in my mind, we can't wait until there's demand for it to change the zoning bylaw, because it takes 2 years to change the zoning bylaw.
The idea of larger square footage would give us an opportunity to attract more national retailers that would want to come in as opposed to a local entrepreneur. I mean, there is open space now for retail that isn't filled yet, but bigger spaces might attract a different thing, but
It's still 5,000 is still small, 2,000 is tiny.
2,000's tiny, yeah.
And is this specifically on that South Street area?
Industrial A and Industrial B is, actually, if you could get out the map. that'd be great. Industrial A is South Street. So, it's, the pink area
Oh, okay.
here.
Okay,
And Industrial B is the purple.
Okay.
Not that purple. This
Yeah.
purple. So that's the other side of 495.
Sure.
But close to 495.
okay.
Okay. Okay, so we will take this one up. But I do think that we need to do a little bit of research ahead of time, so we need to talk about what kind of things we need to have an intelligent discussion about this topic. I feel like in our previous discussions, we didn't have enough background information because we were going back and forth a lot about just people's opinions. And as we discussed last year, this isn't all about our opinions. I mean, a lot of it's about our opinions, but it's really nice to have some actual data to support our opinions. Mobile vendors. Okay, John, you were going to verify with Select Board whether or not this is something that Zach should address, or whether,
I put it down to ask for it as an agenda item, and it still hasn't come up, but
okay,
we have
That's
a
fine.
meeting coming up next week, so I'll put it down to ask if we can.
that is just fine. I'll leave it there. So we won't address it until we get clarification from Select Board.
Is mobile vendors food trucks?
Mobile vendors, food trucks, yeah, and other types of
Okay.
vendors that sell from a truck on the street or something like that.
Mobile pet care,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's,
All I can
that,
think of is food,
delousing
sorry.
your cat,
I've never seen that, but sure, I'll go with that.
whatever goes.
Hot dogs and food trucks are the only thing that's come to mind. Ice cream.
ice cream. Wireless communications bylaw. This is something that we got through you from Elaine, something about it needs to be updated to reflect changes to federal laws. So this, again, we just need to get the information from Elaine and see what needs to be done. So it's just, to me, it's an administrative thing,
Yeah,
so.
those are great, those get right through.
Yeah, so if we can get that, that's a quick,
Get that right to the planning
low-hanging
board.
fruit.
So I talked to Elaine about that, and I talked to Chuck Cadlick, the Director of Municipal Inspection and Zoning Enforcement Officer. It's kind of gotten tabled for the moment, because I've been doing other stuff, but I do have it on my
Okay.
schedule and got all the documents and stuff to look into that.
Okay, that sounds great. We'll bring it to us. Okay, then I am going to ask that we adjourn for tonight because I just need to get this over this cold. And And if I talk anymore, it's not gonna be a good thing.
Before we do that, can I just make sure I'm clear? We're going to take up Ted's information on solar farm
Yep.
overlay district next time, along with, we're going to look at the family dwelling unit bylaw and why that didn't go through in 2018,
Yes,
and address that.
yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much for clarifying that. Okay. And I can resend the solar overlay information right away, like tomorrow, so people can start looking at it if they wish to. And I'll look over my notes, see if I can supplement what you've found, Roger.
I'm sorry, you said it was about the accessory dwelling units as well?
Number 8, yes.
Accessory. Good.
Excellent.
Anything else?
Did you want to talk about I don't think they can sign up anymore, but the residential sprinkler demonstration?
Oh, yes. So October 2nd, 2 days from now, there'll be a public safety demonstration, the sprinkler systems and, talking about that. So this has come up, residential sprinklers, for developments that have like really long winding one-way streets and things like that. And until I met with the fire chief on this a few months ago, I didn't even realize this, but this really affects homeowners buying these properties, that have been developed, and their fire insurance rates. It's a huge effect on something like that, So it's not it's a public safety, but it's also an economic issue for people moving into town or new developments. And planning board has already negotiated for several developments where the developer is going to put in sprinklers.
Yeah, Legacy is 100%.
Oh, is it? That's great. And so even just, this past year, we've negotiated for a couple of other places that'll have sprinklers in the houses. So there's a demonstration, 6 o'clock, that's right, 6 o'clock at the laborers training camp. And Madhu and I are going, Muriel is going, anyone else who wants to join, I'm sure they're not gonna throw you away.
I've got Upper Charles, we're also doing a public information thing at the library.
Yes, Jane
About
said
the-
that, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm torn again that night.
Yeah,
The trail,
Upper Charles Trails, yeah.
Upper Charles.
are we extending that into Hopkinton? Sorry, I didn't want to start something.
Let's hope so,
Okay. Oh, wow. One can hope.
yes,
So today, from what you sent out, is the last day to sign up.
yes. But
For-
I honestly don't believe they'll turn you away at the door if you haven't RSVP'd. So,
But you can run home your RSVP if you'd like to go.
Okay.
it's true. Okay, thank you. And John, you're gonna come too? Right.
So, with your permission, Madam Chair, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Great, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Thank you.